All right, how are you? This is Mark Dixon. I'm the head of upper school here at Delaware County Christian School, and I wanted to take a little bit of time here in my most recent newsletter to add a little video podcast to hopefully give you a little more insight into who Mr. Matthew DeFranza is. He's our director for the Center of Innovation, and a lot of exciting things happening here. I know that folks have been hearing about the center for quite a while now, and some students have had a sail class or two with you. They've maybe had a chance to even explore the Grove City Wolverine Challenge more recently. A lot of neat things that we've been part of already this year, and many things on the horizon which are exciting, but wanted to really kind of give folks a chance to get to know you a little bit, and also have you share in detail some of the things that we can look forward to at the end of this year and even into next year. So without further ado, maybe just a little bit about yourself and what brought you here to DC.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm a child of the church, right? I grew up in the church out in New Jersey by the ocean, which is good times for me. And so I was, my dad was a deacon, and my mom, was the head of the missions committee, and I was baby Jesus when I was born in the place. So I had been in the church in a solid way since the beginning of my time. So I went to the church there, went to youth group, graduated high school, and I went out to study at Eastern University. And so while I was there, I studied business management, and then I wanted a little bit of different experience, and so I tried to search for what that would be. And in the absence of finding it, I created my own major, philosophical anthropology, in cooperation with the academic deans there, and Phil Carey as my advisor, and really fell in love with theology and philosophy, and was able to study with Templeton and do a lot of the classics and classical style education. Really came to enjoy that quite a bit. And then after I graduated, I went to work at Merck Pharmaceuticals up in Upper Winnet, Pennsylvania, and was there for a number of years. So all told, I was about in Pennsylvania for about 10 years during that stint. I was called, though, out of that into Christian education again, and so somebody who had been in my church growing up asked me to come back and say, hey, there's a position at a local Christian school, would you consider applying? And I was really convicted to have that sort of change, and so I went out and I interviewed and got the job and took a position there, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was a really good transition for me. To serve the church in that sort of academic setting was a good place for where I wanted to be. So I went through there and taught, and then I became the IT director there, and really transformed the way the school was done. I'm a bit of a Surface fanboy, so I
Microsoft Surface, that is.
Microsoft Surface, yeah, specifically. So that stuff the NFL guys are on the sideline. That's my deal. But that was as a result of that experience, right? So they were really struggling technologically. They had ancient tech, not really, but stuff that was really very old, and it was really a barrier to education for them going forward. And so as the IT director, I took it on myself to find out what's going on in the industry and research and develop space and go to the conferences and meet the individuals that really have that knowledge. And so I became a Microsoft certified educator based on choice, right? Looking at the options. This is what made me the fanboy, was looking through the options and finding out the capacity of the devices. So actually, we got Service Pro devices, the same ones the NFL had, for all of the teachers in the building, so they could cast their stuff to the screens, and they had a smartphone in their hand, or a smart board in their hands, right, that they could nimbly move around. And it really changed the way education was done there. We were able to go to paperless classrooms. We had digital platforms, but it was flip classroom model became possible, and this was all in advance of COVID, which made COVID, by the way, a significantly easier transition to school because they already had everything in place. Right, there was not much to change. So yeah, we went one-to-one and launched that throughout the school, and it was a pretty great change for that school.
One thing I'll note, that struck us certainly in our conversations with you, and what excites us about you at the helm here, your path through your own education, an entrepreneurial spirit of finding a way, right? Figuring out a way, a path for your interests. Obviously, your love of learning that's broad, right? I think you embody the idea of liberal arts and the beauty of liberal arts in just your approach to not only your education but life. I think even your willingness to take a step into education after starting with Merck, but saying, hey, this new challenge is something that I'm excited about. And I think not only obviously your expertise in many of the technical elements of the center are exciting for us. But I'd also say just your kind of approach, your spirit, and your courage to try new things. We're hoping it will be really contagious for our kids too. I think we talk a lot about how the teacher is the curriculum, and I think that's one thing just as an encouragement that we're excited about in having you here as well, Matthew. So
thanks. Yeah, I'm excited to bring that sort of culture of innovation as it goes through, right? And as a part of that sort of led me to start my own business, right? And to develop that way. And that's really part of that. See things a little bit differently and work towards those areas and find a way through.
Sure. So maybe if you could talk a little bit more about the current day. You've been here this year, gotten to know a lot of folks here at school and have plugged in different ways. So what do you do here, and what are some things that you're working on and hoping to accomplish in the near future here through the center?
Yeah, that's great. So I'm the Director of Innovation, and so my job is to essentially be a catalyst for an innovative culture throughout the school, right? K to 12, staff, faculty, the whole bit. And that's around creating systems and policy and spaces and resources and programming to develop, like you were saying, that sort of culture, a culture of a community of learners, right? That sort of idea. And so two of the things that come to mind, I think, especially on the upper campus with what we're looking for in the coming year, we're creating two new vehicles of learning, right, that we don't currently have and that really are not in the current high school academic system. One of which is the distinction. Right? So this is a big picture honor for students that graduate that can earn a distinction in a certain space by doing a certain amount of work in that area. Not as a major and not just in classes, right, but sort of recognizing the body of work of a student more broadly.
Sure.
And then the other one, which is on the much smaller level, is the microcert. This is a sort of a flexibly time-spaced thing that goes as an asynchronous learning unit, right? So students can come and find a whole body of microcerts and complete one on their own time during PRT or after school or in the summer times, whatever they'd like to, even as part of classes in a blended model sort of learning. And so these are being created using resources that already exist, right? Capturing the value that the school already has, giving it language and systems and structures so that we can embrace our strengths and then go further with them, to be committed to those long term.
Yeah, I think you made the important point that these aren't intended to be majors, right? I think especially in secondary school, you want kids to have broad opportunities and exposure to a lot of different things. But what we find is that often students will begin to narrow their focus as time goes on, 11th, 12th grade. Some of the classes they take are in line with some of the the things they're thinking about for college. So this distinction is a way, a student may or may not decide to do some of the additional work that's necessary or line up all the particular criteria to earn a distinction, but it is a nice way to provide, notoriety for that student and kind of recognize the things that they're doing, and especially if it's a passion that they've already found. So that's exciting. So if I'm a kid, I'm a student, and I hear you talking about microcert. Why might I be interested in pursuing a microcert while here at DC?
Yeah, a microcert is a really good opportunity. I think a lot of the kids that have come in here and even have heard about this sort of in advance have been pretty excited about what's going on. But we're bringing in, like, for example, this podcasting setup. The student can go through and find that there's a podcasting microcert. So, Lisa decides she wants to come in here and learn podcasting. Sounds really cool. I have this, whatever it is that she does on the outside, and I'd like to do a podcast. That'd be really kind of fun. I don't know anything about the tech or the gear or anything, how it works. She can come in, find the database that has all the microcerts listed, sign up for on her own time, and complete a microcert in podcasting. And that'll teach her how to use the gear, how to use all the equipment, and she'll earn a little badge, right, that says essentially I know what I'm doing with the podcasting stuff. So then Lisa now can come in here and say, I'm going to reserve the podcasting equipment, and can take it and go use it because we know that she knows how to use it now. And then she can go with her friends and she can host that podcast that she wanted to, right? And that can be in athletics or theater or a part of her Spanish class, whatever it is, right? So it's giving you access to do these things, right? So they're going to learn these small, tangible skills that are going to be valuable for the sake of impact, right? Which is our mission, right? Equipping these students for impact in the world they're going to go into, so they can take that and run with it, right? And so that'll be across the board, right? 3D modeling, 3D printing, video production. We have one that's starting out around around the basics of marketing, right? So the admissions team and the business department are coming together to make a microcert that are going to be used in both. If you're a student ambassador for the admissions team, right, there's going to be another one there. So these are built out in partnership with faculty and staff that already exist on campus. They're built out with resources that are currently exist out in the real world. And then additionally, which I'm pretty excited about, is that if students want to, they can submit their own microcert. So if one student comes in and like, hey, I'm really good at this one thing and I'm really passionate about it, they can come in and they can build a body. They can work with me, or they can work independently to build their whole class and say, here's the output, and here's how a student can learn how to get there. And then if it's up to snuff, I'm going to give feedback and whatever else. But if it's good, like we'll add it to the database of microcerts.
So in essence, a student is creating an online module or two in order to put others through the training that's necessary to acquire that.
Right, to get that skill. And then we are now community learners.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So now Mrs. Patowski might use the marketing unit in her classroom, right, or the one that this other student makes. Right, a faculty member might say, hey, I really could use that skill. I'm going to take that class. Right? So we all become learners and teachers.
Yeah, I think the other great thing too with the microcerts is that we are we're delegating some of the responsibility, so that if a student wants to, hey, Mr. DeFranza, I want to do a podcast, as opposed to you being pulled every single time someone asks to do something, we're empowering students. I think this idea of personal responsibility is something we've moved to in terms of PRT, personal responsibility time, and I think this is in line with some of that too, that we want to equip students and train them to be able to do some of these things and use their time well. And then I also think it's also helpful just in terms of the kind of shared ownership here, and I think too just to be a place where kids desire to learn and be curious beyond simply I'm doing these things, I'm learning these certain things because I need to get an A on my report card, but I actually can take the time that I have beyond some of those the academic work I need to do in my classes to really pursue interests and get a jump start on perhaps even some things that I can find out I like or I don't like even before I get to college, which is exciting.
Yeah. It's not a new direction. It's just the next step in the same direction. This is the next step of liberal arts.
Excellent. So distinctions. If you could talk a little bit more about those. I mean, what are some things you mentioned that students would have some work to do? It might be some work. It might be particular classes. What are some other criteria that might go into some of these distinctions?
Yeah, it's worthwhile to go deeper into it, right? In some schools, they have things like you would graduate in academy or you'd have a major. And so students, 8th grade, 9th grade would sign up essentially and say, I'm going to do this one academy, and they're in that track, and that's it, right, the rest of the time. This is not that. This is open membership. So if a student, to embrace that liberal arts pace, right, if a student has an interest in theater, right, whatever grade they're in, they can pursue that interest. Now, if they really catch the bug, right, and they're like, this is for me, I'm gonna keep going, right, or at least, or maybe even just I'm curious. Like I did one show that was kind of cool. I'm gonna keep trying this, right. They can pursue that and continue to do that, and there are a ton of different activities that we have here, programming that we have here, and there's a ton of activities that we don't have here that are still significant to an individual's learning of theater, right? So as part of that distinction, right, if they go into the city and they see real theater productions, they can earn credit for that, right? And so you get a certain amount of points based on the work that you're doing, and there's a whole table that shows for each distinction has its own set of tables, and you can see what counts for what. And so essentially, over the course of a student's academic career at high school, they can, if they get all these together, right, compile enough points that earn a distinction. And that is a way to recognize academically. It's an academic honor, right? So it goes on college applications, and it comes with as a requirement a portfolio. So students document their work, and they have at the end, here's my journey in this space. So it gives us language, I think, as a school to say this is important to us. We have a distinction in this space. This is valuable, and so it's like a public commitment to say we're going to continue to prioritize and support this space. And then the students can pursue that and have all the benefits of doing that on campus, off campus, and we can recognize and reward them for doing that. Right? We don't have any medium right now to do that, and this is a way to say, hey, we recognize that you decided that you were going to go, really big into business, and here's the business and entrepreneurship distinctions you guys get.
Sure.
You started your own business, you took a couple business classes, you competed in some college events, and you volunteered at the store, right? You're prepared, right? You have some knowledge in this. What it is not is a major, though. So on the flip side of it, it's not saying, only 2 kids are going to get this on the campus, right? It's not an exclusive, like a super exclusive sort of space. If you are as a student that's going to go and get all the APs, you can try to find a different path that doesn't include classes, right? You can do clubs, you can do events, you can do competitions, you can do stuff outside of class. And so it allows you to be flexible. You can join and stop when you'd like to, if you'd like to, right? If you do theater for a little bit, you decide it's not for you, you can move off, right? And then there'll be one in robotics and engineering, and you can take a look at that one and say, maybe this is for me. Not everybody has to get one, but it's not an exclusive, like, I am prepared to go into the world and do this now. It is I have some, I have a good body of knowledge, I have a good body of action in this space, and I'm better prepared to go to college and do this.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting, we've talked about some of these seeds of students getting plugged in and desiring to explore some of these things. Some of these seeds will take a year or two to be watered and watch them grow. I think, we've altered our schedule, we've added and deleted some things from what we do in order to make room for some of these really cool things. I think about, just from a spiritual and community standpoint, we have started over our long lunches discipleship groups as an example this year. And we weren't sure, hey, what were the signups going to be like? How many kids would be interested? And we've seen those numbers even increase over the course of the year.
Right.
And we're hopeful even in the same way as we provide opportunities for students. There's definitely academic incentive, but there's also and college resume incentive. But I think the larger piece is really wanting to see our community grow in the life of the mind and really maximizing the gifts God's given us to use and steward our talents well. We've talked about intellectual virtue and what does that mean to not let our mind be lazy and to kind of like do the bare minimum for our own benefit, right? I think that this is all in line with those things as part of our mission, and I'm excited about a lot of these seeds that are already growing and will continue to grow. So one question that folks will ask is, hey, how can I get involved? So if I'm a student, maybe first, and then, right now it's May 2022. Looking ahead, how can a student get involved, and maybe even parents or alumni or other members, friends of the community? What are other ways that they might even be able to get involved?
Sure, yeah, that's great. So if you're a stakeholder in the group in the community, then you're like, hey, that I have a microcert I'd like to do. Just reach out, email me, get in touch, or I'd like to see one made for this space. Let me know, right? If you want to stop by, if you're a student, you can stop by here, come visit me. I'm up in the loft in the library. I'm happy to get your thoughts, your ideas, your passion, if you got something new here. Because again, this is about a culture of innovation. So try something new, right? And if you have something in mind and you want to try something new, or if you want to just, you have an idea and you want to put it out there and be like, hey, what if, right? Let's chat. Come by. So yeah, if you want to make a microcert, that's what you can do. If you want to take a look and follow up on any of the distinction stuff or see what's going to exist as the microcerts currently, we're going to have a website that gets released at the end of the summer, and all the information will be on there. So if you're like, I want to see what's available to me, I want to see what counts or what doesn't count. Some of you guys who are juniors this year, right? You all may be able to graduate with a distinction next year if you've been in one of these areas for a long enough period of time, right? It's going to count. It's retroactive, right? So if you did that activity before, right? That'll count for you. So we're not just taking that here forward, right? If you did the competitions, if you took the classes, if you did the clubs and events, that'll count. But yeah, that's for you too. So some of you might want to check it out just to be like, hey, I might be really close, right? To get one of these things, maybe I'll pay attention to it. So yeah, all of that stuff, everything is always going to be on the website. The website will be linked in the DC's parent website, so you'll be able to go there and find all the information. I'm not going to inundate you guys with emails or anything like that, but whenever you're curious, whenever you want to know, all of it will be up to date, refreshed, and clean there. In an easy access kind of way.
All right, this is my final question. So, just a little bit more about you personally. So, tell us a little bit about your family, and then maybe some ways you enjoy spending some of your own free time. What free time exists? Yeah. What do you enjoy to do when you're kind of just letting down and you have some time on your own?
Sure. Yeah. So my family, it's myself, my wife Catherine. I have a son Josiah. He's 2 years old and he's in the pre-K2 program with your son, right. Teddy. Yep. Teddy and Leo are his buddies, by the way.
Nice.
When he comes home.
We hear about Josiah as well.
He always asks about it. My two friends, Teddy and Leo. And then we have a golden retriever, Molly, 3 or 4 years old now. But so we just moved into town. We got in the Broomall, and are getting acquainted. Got some great neighbors, and getting established in the space, and being from out of town, it's and during a sort of COVID decline here, it's a strange getting used to the place, but we're we're working on it, and it's been going pretty well. As for free time, I don't get a ton. Between being a father and the professional duties,
I can relate.
It's a real struggle. But outside of adulting, I enjoy some football. I like to watch football professionally. My wife is a big Penn State fan. Her whole family is, so I've been grafted into that tree. So I'm as far as college goes, I enjoy the Penn State. And then on the other side, I do really enjoy strategy board gaming. So it's a nerd space for me, but I have enjoyed that quite a bit.
Before I ask you about that, I noticed that you didn't mention at the NFL level he's a Cowboys fan, folks.
Yes.
I'm just letting him. I'm calling him out, but so you can give him a hard time when you see him.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about. I know you were into a particular strategy board game.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
I will. I'm gonna reply to the Cowboys thing first, but so I'm a Cowboys fan. I grew up, and my whole family we were outside the suburbs of New York, right? So my whole family, all the males in my family, were big diehard Giants fans, big time.
Mm-hmm.
And so just like Ben Vivino, I got into football at the same time. I was like, I'm a teenager, I'm gonna do my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so who you guys hate the most? That's my team, right? Which is it's something you live with, right? You make that decision, you got to stay there. You can't pivot off. And so as much as they've been in the 25-year drought, that's been my space. So, and I went to a Philly Dallas game once, and I found I was not stupid, right? I wore a black coat, didn't want to instigate the wrong kind of way. But what I found is, for you Phillies fans, right? I can't cheer on the Cowboys, but man, I get some buddies if I make fun of the Eagles.
Oh wow, that's right. Even Eagles fans.
Eagles fans hate Eagles, right? Eagles players. So I found I could really bash the Eagles team whenever they messed up, and that I had buddies, and they're like, yeah, this guy's terrible.
Right.
So I didn't get any beer thrown on me, and I had a lot of friends at the end of the night. But
good. Yeah.
So as far as the game goes, I enjoy a game called Warhammer 40K.
Say it again. Warhammer 40K.
Warhammer 40K.
Right.
Warhammer 40,000 for those of you guys want to take a look at it. It's a great full-time strategy game. It's been around for 30 years. It's international. It's been played all over the world. And I like my fair share of the basics. Settlers and Risk and Catan and all that stuff. But chess especially too. But 40K was like I went pretty hard into 40K during college, and really enjoyed it.
The more I researched it, I understand you're like a celebrity in that world. So maybe just Google. Yeah.
You'll find plenty of very embarrassing videos of me with a goatee and a Merc shirt, working or doing the Merc thing right after college and what that looked like. But yeah, it's you make these little miniature armies and you build them all together. You put them on a big table, and I mean, we started a team up in Warminster, Pennsylvania, and we traveled all over the country. We compete, Chicago, New York, DC, whatever. But yeah, I won my fair share of games and gotten some prize support and done pretty well with it. So,
yeah. Well, we're excited about having that strategic mind that we're seeing, work here at DC, and just excited not only to see the work that you continue to do and the opportunities that students are afforded, but I think also just your heart for young people and introducing them to some of the things that have really energized you and excited you and inspired you. And you've sharpened your colleagues a great deal already. I look forward to many of you getting to know Mr. DeFranza a little bit better as time goes on. So anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Thanks for being a big part of the warm welcome, man. I appreciate it.
Sure.
It's made the transition much easier for me and my family.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you, man. Yeah, for sure. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.